IEC Commissioner Janet Love joins us for more on this study. Commissioner Love, thanks for your time this evening. Please provide some insights into the methodology used for conducting the poll, including sample size, demographic representation, and obviously the regions covered.
The survey was, the sample was done on a random basis and complied with various standards. So we saw people being drawn from the spectrum of demographics, both in terms of gender as well as in terms of age populations, and there is a disaggregation. The more detailed presentation of the research data was not able to be done today in the seminar just because of time, but it is available.
So let's talk about the significant findings or trends that emerged from this poll. Anything that stood out for you?
Well, you know, I think that the fact that most voters in South Africa still believe in the importance of democracy as a system of governance is not something that we should take for granted. And I think the fact that that is the case today still is something that we should treasure and ensure that we shore up, because the dissatisfaction, on the other hand, with what elections and democracy have produced for many South Africans can lead to a situation where the value of democracy is overlooked and disregarded in the future. And, you know, we could see totalitarianism creep in. And that is something, obviously, that everybody would want to avoid. So I think the fact that although people are generally dissatisfied with the way in which democracy is working in the sense of what it's delivering, there are many voters that see it as important. There has been an increase also in the last 18 months in terms of those who believe that they have a duty to vote, that those who believe that their vote can make a difference and that their vote isn't pointless. So I think that that's good in the sense that people hopefully will increasingly realize that if they don't vote, they are leaving what has been a poor performance in their lives to carry on, and numbers are really something that count.
So let's talk a little bit about first-time voters, those that didn't vote in the last election and obviously would have matured and are old enough to vote. So you're probably looking at the 18 to 24, 25-year-olds. What is their sentiment on voting?
Well, I think that the many young people are seeing that voting is important. Many young people, 42% still believe, so 58% were shown to still believe that voting is important, and 42% still believe that it is a duty. But there is, notwithstanding that, huge disillusionment. There is widespread belief that political parties, political leadership has not delivered on promises. And so that kind of creates a contradiction, and it's a very fragile then sense of well, it's a fragility in terms of the commitment that those young people have to actually turning out at the polls. So there is a lot of work for everybody to do to make sure that young people in particular ensure that their voice is heard and that they are seen as an important constituency by people who are contesting for political office.
You raise an important point there, Commissioner Love, and you talk about the importance of a lot of people, of everyone being involved in that process of convincing young people that there is a need to vote. So let's split hairs, if you will. How much of the responsibility is the responsibility of the IEC in educating voters on the need to vote versus the various statements that will be made by the political parties to convince young people to vote for them specifically and turn out?
First of all, I think that the responsibility is really a collective responsibility of all South Africans in all walks of life who believe that democracy is important, freedom of speech, and so on. And so partnership for the Commission with a whole range of stakeholders, not least of whom are members of the media, is extremely important. The second thing is I think that what we have hoped to do in terms of this research is not only to inform ourselves and the public at large, but also to engage political parties, some of whom were present at the symposium today, so that there is a much greater consciousness on the part of people who intend to contest in the 2024 elections, so that kind of commitment and understanding on their part is a lot stronger, because their performance has been, certainly as far as the survey is showing, has not been up to scratch. Issues of corruption, poor service delivery have led to high levels of political disillusionment, and that's something that only those who are in political office, who are political contestants, can address. What we can do is make people conscious of the kind of constituency that they are placing at risk and that they need to win over, and what's important for that constituency.
Commissioner, my final question would be around the trust in the electoral process. Did the poll assess the level of trust that South Africans have in the process, and were there any indicators of confidence or skepticism around the process?
Look, the levels of trust in a whole range of institutions in our society has certainly declined, whether that be in Parliament, in political parties, in political representatives. And no institution that's part of our constitutional state is shielded from that feeling. The Electoral Commission has also felt some of those pressures. I think overall, however, the Electoral Commission has seen, first of all, a slight uptick in confidence in the Commission from 2021. And that's not something just to say that we take for granted. It's certainly something that we see as being really important to continue to engage in outreach with citizens. But I think that the other thing is that when it comes to the participation survey, in other words, people who have actually had the experience of registering, of voting in past elections, the participation survey gives us a very high rating. But, it's bringing people into that realm. Clearly, an ongoing concern is the experience people have in the voting station, because it's at that coalface that the Electoral Commission comes to the people. And so that is an area that the Commission's always looking at improving, the training, the working with people who are the voting staff.
Commissioner Love, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for speaking to us. Janet Love, IEC Commissioner, speaking to us on that poll on what you think ahead of next year's elections.